This year, the FCC announced its intent to recharter CISRIC to provide recommendations to the FCC regarding ways the FCC can strive for security, reliability, and interoperability of our nation's communication systems. Last week, Representative Slotkin, Schrader, and I introduced H.R. 4067, the Communications Security Advisor Act of 2021, which would simply make the council permanent. Mr. Johnson, what's the best way to structure the council and define its focus, assisting the FCC as much as possible? And Mr. Boswell, I'll ask you to follow up on that.
Great, thank you, Congressman, and appreciate your focus on CISRIC. I have to say, there's a special place in my heart for the CISRIC, despite its being possibly the worst acronym in a town of bad acronyms. CISRIC is it's really one of the crown jewels of our government, I think. And for those who don't know, it's the Communication Security, Reliability, Interoperability Council that advises the FCC. It's a collection of experts from industry, from government, and really throughout the ecosystem to make sure that our 911 systems work well, that emergency alerts, that cutting-edge issues like 5G security, and I know both companies that are represented here today have advanced that significantly in recent years. I look forward to what this next CISRIC is going to do, focus on 5G issues. I think the best way, and I do think there would be some value in statutorily backing up CISRIC. I think and don't have any particular suggestions for revising your bill. I think it could really provide a long-term backing to a committee or a council that adds tremendous value. And the only thing I would advise is to make sure that it remains flexible in terms of how each FCC puts it together. Because, for instance, there's with the two attacks that have been so high profile in the past couple of months, there are elements of each of those attacks that might be grappled with in CISRIC, and I think the flexibility is valuable.
Okay, flexibility, Mr. Boswell.
I think from a U.S. perspective, we have an obligation, a responsibility to the rest of the world to continue leading in 5G. CISRIC is one of the bodies that helps us do that. And by codifying it and showing the support behind it, I think it supports that on a global stage as well. I've been involved in several CISRICs myself, and usually not too long after our reports get published, then I have colleagues from around the world that end up referencing those reports. Well, the U.S. says that this is best practice. The U.S. says that this is best practice because they know we have the most secure and most reliable networks right here in the U.S. Okay. So this puts kind of the pen to paper from the engineering standpoint of saying this is truly best practice because this is what U.S. operators do. I think that's very important.
Do you think, Mr. Boswell, that recommendations of CISRIC should be mandatory, or should each company identify how best to incorporate their recommendations?
I think that each company should identify how to best incorporate those recommendations, and we do take that into account as we work through each CISRIC on what's a best practice and what is this is a must-have. There are certain recommendations in every CISRIC report that kind of stipulate, well, this is for good security, you really have to do these certain things. For others, it's really dependent. Our operators have a good track record of taking a risk-based approach to the different layers that make up their network, and what makes sense in one region or architecture type may not necessarily make sense and even be a burden on them if forced to implement certain things.
Okay. Mr. Brenner, I have a question asked of you, but in the time here and with my chairman sitting behind me, I'm going to have to direct it to you and get an answer to follow up.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I yield back.